everyone, it's Hailey, and today I'm going to be sharing some books that you probably have never heard of. I've done this video a few times in the past and I will link it down below for you guys, but I just really love finding books that I feel like are hidden gems. Now, obviously, depending on where you hang out, you may have heard of all of these books. I'm not on Twitter all that much and I feel very disconnected from everything, so I don't know if these are talked about a ton there, but I did check on Goodreads to double check that they are books that aren't really spoken about a lot. I also don't know about TikTok, but that being said, I do still feel like these are books that deserve more love than they are getting. So if you like content like this, don't forget to click that subscribe button and then click that bell icon so you'll be notified whenever I post. I post new videos 2 to 3 times a week. And I also wanted to take a second to thank the sponsor for today's video, Function of Beauty. I have been using my Function of Beauty products for well over a year now and I really love them. Function of Beauty allows you to customize your shampoo and conditioner based on what you need. So you take a 5-minute quiz in which you fill out your hair profile, you pick 5 goals that you have for your hair, and then you can also pick the color and the scent and the strength of the scent, and you also can put your name on it. So I have my name on it and they deliver with little stickers that make it even cuter. For my 5 hair goals, I picked curl definition, deep conditioning, lengthening, shine, and anti-frizz. I love the formula that I ended up with. I love the scent. I picked the peach scent and it smells so good, and this time around I decided to go for like a pink and a yellow because I felt like it was really cute for summer. I also have their leave-in conditioner here, which I love, and the hair serum. I love both of these products because my hair is desperately thirsty because it's curly, so these really help to keep it hydrated. One of the best things about Function of Beauty is that it eliminates my need to use a lot of products. I feel like I get everything right in the shower from my shampoo and conditioner, which is so lovely and helps me save money in the long run. But if you guys were interested in checking out Function of Beauty for yourself, then you can click the link in my description box down below to save 20% off of your first order. I definitely recommend that you guys check it out, and thank you so much to Function of Beauty for sponsoring me once again. So now getting into the books, the first book that I wanted to mention is We Are Not Free by Tracy Chee. I have been like screaming from the mountaintops about this book, I feel like, because it is so incredible. So also keep in mind, like, you watch my videos, probably, maybe, unless you just stumbled upon it, which hello. But if you do watch my videos, then you might know some of these books, but I would just like to reiterate that I think that they're underrated. So We Are Not Free is fantastic. It is such a great, impactful, and important historical fiction read. This is following the lives of 14 different Japanese American teenagers who are ripped from their homes and put into incarceration camps, and you follow everything that they experience there, and it is just expertly written. You get all of their perspectives, and it is such a well-rounded story that will teach you so much, and I think that this should be read by every American and Canadian because those incarceration camps existed during World War II in Canada as well as America, and it's important for this history to be known because I feel like it's nothing that I ever learned about in school, and that's just very sad. Like, I didn't even know that they existed in Canada as well. Not only for the educational value, but it also is just a story that is going to completely tear out your heart. You'll feel better for it, I guess. It's so hard for me to describe my relationship with this story. I just loved how all 14 of these characters felt extremely different. All 14 of their perspectives, I could tell that it was a different person, and I don't know like how she managed to write something like that, but this book is honestly like a masterpiece. It is just so fantastic and I highly recommend it. If you haven't already, please pick it up, please give it a chance, because especially if you love historical fiction, even if you don't, it is such an incredible read. Next is Like a Love Story by Abdi Nazemian. So I read this book last June and it really blew me away. This is set during the AIDS crisis, and you are following a teenager who has recently immigrated from Iran, and he's gay and he's afraid to reveal that to his family because he doesn't feel like he'll be accepted. But he ends up making some friends in his new life in New York City, and his friend has a gay uncle, so he's able to learn more about being gay, and it's obviously a really difficult time to be dealing with that because he's seeing all these images in the media of gay men suffering from AIDS, and he's seeing how heartbreaking the AIDS epidemic has been, especially for gay men. So it just was a very, once again, very powerful read. It was such an important one as well. I didn't really know that much about the AIDS crisis, but I felt like the story taught me a lot, and it also taught me a lot about friendship. The relationships in here were very interesting to follow, and I felt like the characters felt very realistic, and I could just picture everything very well. It felt like a great story, and definitely one that I think a lot of people would really enjoy. Next up is Now That I Found You by Ashley Woodfolk. I talked about this book for a while wanting to read it, but then I finally did, yay! And it is because it's a book that deals with friendship breakups. And I think that there should be more books about that because it is such a common thing, especially growing up. I feel like YA should have so many books covering this topic, but there's only like 2 that I can think of. Obviously that's going to be a lifelong thing, but like friendship breakups happen and they can be so painful, like just as painful, if not more sometimes, than a romantic breakup, because you're losing someone in your life, and sometimes it's for the better, sometimes there's a conflict, sometimes it just happens, you grow apart, and that's totally fine. And I just am glad that there is a book about that because I think it is a great topic that needs to be talked about more. But this book kind of deals with a little bit of a conflict, but it also is a little bit of drifting apart, and I think it does a good job of covering both of those topics. I definitely would recommend it if you're in high school, because I feel like high school, especially transitioning into university, there's going to be a lot of friendships that fall through the cracks that you kind of think are forever, but then they end up not being that, and that's totally fine. And I just felt like I loved the way that this book went. It could be really frustrating at times, but at the same time, it was once again a really realistic read, very realistic to the teenage or just human experience, because honestly, your whole entire life you're gonna have friends and then, you know, things happen. But a really great read for if this is something that you have dealt with, which I'm sure it is, or just a great read overall. Next is Early Departures by Justin A. Reynolds. This is called Forever Ends on a Friday in the UK, and I think also Australia, but it is the same book, they just gave it a different title, which happens sometimes. But this book is so incredible. Like, I have never been so emotional reading a book. I just felt heavy the entire time, but that doesn't mean I didn't like it. It was just so well done. It deals with loss and grief at the center of it, and it does so in an amazing way. So it follows the main character who has gotten into a fight with his best friend, and that best friend ends up actually dying that night, but there's actually this technology where he can be reanimated for a short amount of time, so he'll be able to say his goodbyes. So it's just like, you know it's gonna be sad, but it's so much sadder than you expect it to be, even as much as you prepare yourself for it. But I felt like it was once again a really realistic story. I could totally understand what the main character was going through. I could feel all of the emotions he was feeling, feel all the loss that he had been through and was going through, and you just are like rooting for him to not get over it, but move on from it and have the strength to do that. And over the course of the book, he's really building that up, and it's nice to see the development that he has. So I would recommend this if you have been through loss, like maybe not right away because it is a pretty heavy read, but I think it shows you how you can get back on your feet again, and it does it in a really great way. Next up is Now That I Found You by Christina Forrest. So I've read 2 Christina Forrest books. I think she only has 2, and this one is her second one, but I felt like this one was a lot of fun. It deals with Hollywood and kind of old Hollywood a little bit, but the main character is hoping to make it as an actress, and there ends up being this whole huge scandal. So then she goes to see her grandmother, and her grandmother used to be a very famous Hollywood starlet who has now retired. So she's going to her grandmother in the hopes that she can help her out with the scandal that has happened. But then her grandmother ends up going missing, so she has to team up with Milo, who is just the sweetest, but he has been hanging out with her grandmother, and they have to team up to try and find her. So it's kind of a mystery story, piecing things together all at once, and you follow some very interesting characters. Like, I loved Milo so much, and the main character, I think her name's Evie. Yes, it is Evie. The main character, Evie, was a little bit difficult to read at times, but I felt like she read like a true actress, very driven and wanting to succeed no matter the cost. So you see a lot of growth from her over the course of this book, and the development was just really great to watch. It was just a fantastic, really fun, but layered read. Next is a book that I really don't know if it's underhyped, but I just haven't really seen it everywhere, and I absolutely loved it, and that is Tokyo Ever After by Amiko Jean. This book was so much fun. Like, it's like Crazy Rich Asians meets The Princess Diaries series, and I don't know what more you could want, because that's basically everything that I want from a book. I had really high expectations going into it, and I wasn't disappointed at all. It was so much fun. You have an adorable romance between this girl. She finds out she is Princess of Japan, and then she goes to Japan, and it's obviously like a big deal. She is getting into royal life, and you get to see her dealing with that. But the romance is between her and her guard, and it is so great. It's kind of like enemies to lovers, hate to love more so, I would say, which generally isn't my favorite, but I did really enjoy it in this case. And also watching her relationship with her father was really nice. Like, it's just a happy read. There's not a ton of conflict. There definitely is some, but there's not a ton of conflict, which I actually liked. I felt like it worked for this story. Next is Invictus by Ryan Groden. So I feel like Wolf by Wolf is a little bit more hyped up, and maybe it's because I talk about it a lot, so then I just feel like it's hyped up. But this is another book by Ryan Groden that I feel like doesn't get to the hype that it deserves. This is a lot of fun. I didn't enjoy it as much as Wolf by Wolf, but I did still really like it. Like, she writes very unique reads, and in this case it's a sci-fi dealing with time travel. It has a main character who shouldn't exist but does. He was born outside of time, and there's this whole mystery surrounding him that's unraveling, and you just follow them as they are going through space and time, and it is super, super cool. I feel like I've read very few books like this, but it was a wild ride, a roller coaster the entire way through, and I was hooked from the very beginning. Next is Don't Read the Comments by Eric Smith. I feel like this is a book that a lot of people can benefit from because it deals with online hate and the impact of that. You follow a main character who is a streamer, and she deals with a lot of hate because of that, and now the hate is getting way more intense, and there's just this visceral hatred toward her that she has to try and deal with. She's trying to keep herself and her family safe, but now it's coming to a point where she's not sure if she can do that anymore. But she also ends up meeting this guy in the game, and they start a relationship with each other. They become friends quickly, and she's able to like not be the big streamer that she is there. She feels like she can just be herself. So I felt like this did a really good job of dealing with social media and its treatment of women, and in particular in like the gaming space where there's a lot of gatekeeping, and also particularly women of color. So I felt like this was a fantastically done read. I could definitely relate to the hate comments and like that whole culture, so it was really nice and relatable for me. Next is Paris is Always a Good Idea by, who are you by? Jen McKinley. I don't know why I forgot that. So I picked this book up on a whim. I tend to, like, some adult romance reads for some reason fly under the radar for me, and then when I go to the bookstore and see them, I end up just picking them up. So that was the case with this one, and I'm really glad that I did take a chance on it because I actually really liked it. It's an enemies to lovers romance, but the romance went a completely different way than I was expecting, which was really nice to kind of be thrown for a loop there. So I don't know if it says it in the synopsis or anything, but I just didn't expect that. But the main character, Chelsea, she has been reeling since the death of her mother, and she has just kind of let life fall to the wayside. So she ends up going to this trip to all the places that she went before her mother died to try and find herself again and like reinvigorate, I guess, her zeal for life. So she goes to Italy and Ireland, I think specifically. Yes, Ireland, France, and Italy to meet the guys that she met in all of those places. But it was just a really fun read, but also you could see the character transforming and learning to live with the grief that has been completely weighing her down for all these years. And I really liked this book. It was a pleasant surprise. Next is Blade of Secrets by Trisha Levenseller. I have come to really enjoy Trisha Levenseller's writing because she writes books that are fantasies, they're fast-paced, and they're just a joy to read at the same time. So in this case, we are following a blacksmith, and she has social anxiety, and her sister is her best friend. They are very, very close, but she ends up having to go on the run with her sister because she ends up creating this blade that is more powerful than anything she could ever imagine. It could do like really bad damage. So she is trying to keep that away, keep it out of the wrong hands basically. But there's also this mercenary who ends up going with them. There's a little bit of romance there. It's just great. I loved the sister relationship. I loved the blacksmith aspect. That was really cool and interesting, and I read this so quickly. So if you need a quick fantasy, this is a great one. Next is I Love You So Mochi by Sarah Kuhn. This book is adorable. Like, it is is so cute. It's about a character who she ends up going to Japan for spring break, and she goes to meet her grandparents. She's staying with them, but she's also going through a lot at the same time because she's kind of struggling with her identity and what she wants to do with her life. Her mother wants her to be a painter, but she doesn't really feel like that's where she belongs, so she's really on this trip to work on her creativity and kind of discover where she fits in. It's really lovely to watch her transformative journey. The setting is amazing, and there's also a super cute romance. Like, it is so cute. And the final underrated book I wanted to talk about today is Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim. This book was so freaking good. I was so excited for it leading up to when it came out like 2, 3, 4 years ago, and then it took me until this year to finally read it, but I am so glad that I finally did. It's like Mulan meets Project Runway, and oh my goodness, that combination is just killer. The main character ends up disguising herself as a boy so then she can enter into this tailor's competition to be the Emperor's royal tailor. And she also has these scissors that are like magical. It's very interesting. Magic comes into it. She has to, as her final task, make a dress made out of like the laughter of the sun, the tears of the moon, and something of the stars. I can never remember, but it's super interesting. Like, such a beautifully written story. I particularly loved the first half of it, but the whole thing was really good. Okay, so those are all the books that I wanted to share with you guys today. I hope you enjoyed. I hope it helped you to find some books that you hadn't heard about to add to your TBR. But thank you once again so much to Function of Beauty for sponsoring today's video. Don't forget to check out that link down below if you guys were interested, and I will see you guys in a new video soon. Bye!